Good morning, Greene County.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming. If we can all move into the center aisle here, just kind of squish in. How many got measurable snow last night? Oh my goodness. My car did. And after I was leaving work, I got in my trunk to get the snow removal equipment. Couldn't find it, and the trunk lid landed on my arm. I thought, well, shoot, I don't have any snow removal equipment, so here you go.
And it's the swelling on your.
And the swelling in my arm went down because I saw it right away. Exactly, let's go. Well, thankfully, do we have any road conditions? Chris?
No, I got up about midnight, flipped the switch and noticed all the roads.
Well, I love the way that works. That means you use this morning. It's so nice. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. We know you've got work ahead of you, and we'll appreciate you then too. So it's a week following the election. Congratulations to all those that got elected. We have a special guest today. Bryan Feemster will be our new circuit clerk. And this is no surprise to many of you because he had no opponent in the primary or the general. So he's been on our campus, you've seen him around, but he's going to kind of talk about a little bit of his history, what the circuit clerk's office does, and give you a little snapshot of it. Bryan?
Well, thank you. Do I need to stand behind or in front?
Well, you need to have a mic that is. There you go.
Okay, so I need.
And that one to the audience.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, Jared, you just tell me if I'm in the wrong place here. I may stand right out here if it'll work. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, you mentioned me winning, and thank you. Congratulations for that. I now know that I'm capable of beating nobody. So that's at least that's a start. That's a start. So let me just start. I think what Cindy had asked me to do was okay. Was to give you a little background about me, which I'll do, and then I'll talk about the circuit clerk's office. I'm not going to talk a lot about the circuit clerk's office because I'm not there yet, and I have had some preliminary meetings and things like that. But I will try to answer your questions, or if I can't answer your questions, I'll put them on my list of things I need to do. Kylie, I know you probably can. I know she can stop me, and Bill immediately if they want to. So anyway, last night I was watching the snow come down. And it reminded me of when I was growing up, just a few minutes north of here out at Lake Valley Watermelon Dairy Farm. And what it reminded me of is those times when you go get the cows up to milk them, and it was snowing, maybe hard and blowing. And you get out in it and you think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And the snow's blowing your face, it's cold, it's uncomfortable. But you head down the hill, and the further you go down the hill toward the creek and the woods down there, the wind would start to settle down. And by the time you got down into the valley next to the creek, it was just calm. And the flakes would just be floating down. And it was just kind of serene. And it was one of those things where God taught me that anytime there's a storm, if you're persistent, and you look hard enough, there's some place where it's calm, or at least calmer, relatively calm. And that was a lesson I carried with me and extended on throughout my life. And as I grew up, I knew I wanted to be a farmer. And my dad had had a couple of years of college, and he was very interested, as was my mother, that I go to college. So I did. I went to Southwest Missouri State, which was what it was called back then. And while I was there, it became a university of all things. And of course, now it's MSU. But I got a degree in general agriculture, is what I got, 4-year degree in that, because I was going to dairy. That's what I was going to do with my dad. Got through that and got it done, really proud of myself. And had a talk with Dad, and he said, you know, you got 5 brothers and sisters. I don't think this farm is going to support you and 5 more families. Why don't you see what you can find? And to me, that was a storm. I was disappointed about that because that's what I wanted to do. It's where I thought I was going to do. And all of a sudden, my life was switched around. And so I went out, maybe half-heartedly, started looking for a job. And I was blessed and fortunate enough to be hired by City Utilities. And I was hired, this farm boy was hired to be a mechanic down at the James River Power Station. So I learned how to make electricity with natural gas to begin with. Down there in those units where those stacks came down not too long ago, those 5 units there, you could make electricity with natural gas. Well, the government come in pretty quickly after that and said, you cannot use natural gas to make electricity. You must use coal. So we did. We switched over and we used coal for a lot of years and still are, by the way, in Springfield, using coal to produce the majority of the electricity that's keeping the lights on right here, right now. But anyway, I was a mechanic, and then I ended up getting an opportunity to become an operator in the power station and then a supervisor. And believe me, I had no idea what I was doing as that young supervisor. No idea whatsoever. But they kept me anyway. And I, being an assistant manager, ended up being director of power supply and generation and strategic operations. Right next door was where I spent the last few years, just about this same level. So, in the building. And then I retired. And lo and behold, this opportunity came up for circuit clerk. And I talked to some people ahead of time to say, okay, what's this about? And here's what I've got in my background. What do you think? Is that a match at all? Of course, there's never a perfect match, never. But at any rate, I went ahead and made the decision. And that's where I am right now, is getting ready to begin to learn what it's like to be a circuit clerk. That's where I'm at right now. Having said that, I attended my first court and bank meeting with Kylie was there, and Bill was too, here just a few days ago. And and during the meeting, Tom introduced me by saying, "Why don't you get up and introduce yourself?" And I did. And then I got one question, and the question was from Judge Cordona, something to the effect of, well, you retired. Why in the world would you do this? And another phrasing that might have been, what's the matter with you? So it was a very good question, actually. But what it really amounts to me is I did grow up on a farm, and we worked until the work that needed to be done was done. And actually, the work that needed to be done never got done. So I just got used to that on the farm. And when I retired from City Utilities, I told them real quickly, my wife said, this is not going to work. Not going to work. She said, you need something more. And she told me this before I retired. And I knew it. I just enjoy something new, learning new things. And the exhilaration of solving problems is just something that is really, I don't know what it is. I just like it. It's very uncomfortable. And yet the reward of it is fulfilling in some way. And I know you guys know what I mean by that. So yes, I'm going to jump back into it again. And yes, it's a full-time job. Of course it is. And you're going to do what you got to do to get it done. Now, Julie mentioned something about, you need to tell us something about the circuit clerk's office. I'll tell you what I can. I've talked with Tom many times to this point already, and he's told me a lot. I had the opportunity last week to meet with Renee Edge, who's the deputy circuit clerk over there, and also with Julie Allen and Brooke Sullivan, 2 of the unit managers. And I hear a theme there of there is a lot more to do than you might imagine until you actually get to do it, which I think all of you could say about your own job as well. And I can tell you, Renee, she's the one that's if you would, the right-hand person for Tom right now. And there's no question that she's outstanding individual and works very hard and does everything she possibly can to make that office run as well as it can. So I know that I'm honored to be able to work with these people over there. I can tell you that already. And they're not the only ones. There's other folks over there that are also, including the folks that are up there, at the front, answering questions and things like that. Maybe even especially those people who are front facing to the customer every day. Those people are dedicated as well. A couple things I know, or at least are beginning to learn about this, is the orders of protection over there have been a problem for a while. They're critical part of what goes on over there. An order of protection is, if you don't know, is say, for example, there's someone in a household that's having a difficulty, then they fear violence or harm or something like that, then they can come seek an order of protection, which a judge must grant, ex parte, I should say, order of protection to begin with. And that process sometimes needs to be done very quickly. And it used to be, when the jail was right next door here, that that was open 24/7. And folks could actually come in there 24/7 and they'd have the ability to get that paperwork filled out right there. And then that process from there would be done where the judge would get to look at it and also would determine what needs to be done, that information get back to the individual. Well, when the jail moved, of course, this pandemic's been going on for everybody here for the last 2.5 years now. And people are short employees everywhere, including at the jail. And they're down a lot. So they've indicated that they are too short of personnel to do that, to open a lobby 24/7 anymore to somebody that might be seeking an ex parte order. So there's been some workarounds going on here for quite some time, and they're actually involving a few of the managers over there working weekends, every weekend, 9 to 6, and also until I think it's 8 maybe in the evening, Monday through Friday, and it includes holidays too. They do not have any more people than they ever have. In fact, they're affected the same way as everybody else was by the pandemic. So it's a problem right now, serving the community in the way it needs to be served. I know there's some resolutions that are in works when I'm software. And that software is not the resolution. It may be a piece of it. But at any rate, that's something that isn't fixed yet, and we'll see how that goes. Anything you want, Bill, want to add? Because I know that you're involved with that too. Anything you'd like to add?
We would not be saddened if detention got out of the order of protection. We will continue to assist in any way we can.
Juveniles is a critical component of that system right now because they receive the information on that order of protection. They pass it to the judge right now, and the judge passes it back to you, and then you forward the communications, the way I understand it.
Yeah, the deputy juvenile officers are sworn in by your office as deputy clerks.
Right.
They can handle that.
Right. So, and there's a lot more to it than I'm sure. That's just what I've learned so far. So you've got that going on. Something that is not going on yet, but could have huge implications for the circuit clerk's office, has to do with the expungement involved in this Amendment 3, which was passed here recently on the marijuana. Within that 38, 39 pages of documentation, it says there's going to be automatic expungements, which is really interesting because automatic just simply suggests that, the person who normally would come and say, hey, I'd like to have this expunged from my record, doesn't have to do so. You have to figure it out as a circuit clerk. So you've got all these, how many cases a year are we looking at? 30,000 cases? 30,000 cases. There's some of those that are going to be marijuana related, although I hear anymore very few that would be simply possession only, almost none anymore. But in the past, there certainly were some. And what people don't understand, and I'm beginning to learn, is it's tough to find those cases because, for example, there's codes used to determine whether something was marijuana possession or not. Well, guess what? It's a generic code, is what I understand in some cases, which not only indicates marijuana, but anything else you might have possessed. So if you do an electronic search for this, it does not tell you which ones are marijuana. It turns up huge numbers of cases. It also doesn't tell you whether anything else was involved, like violence, or they were selling to a minor, or they had a truckload instead of, a little bit. So there's several other pieces to that won't be expunged, by the way. But somehow, some way, the state is supposed to magically determine what those automatic expungements need to be. And it has not been figured out yet, I can tell you that. Oscar right now is working on that. And I don't know what they're going to come up with. And I know the judges, commissioners are concerned about it. And I know the clerk's office is concerned about it because undoubtedly it's going to be coming back. Work for everybody, I think, is what it's going to amount to, with the same number of people that we have now, and which is not enough. So guess what? Case backlog probably going up. It's going to take longer to get resolution in the legal system than what it does right now. That's just a side effect, by the way, of Amendment 3 passing that I'm aware of. Aspirations, I think, Cindy, you mentioned, do I have aspirations for the clerk's office? It's really too soon for me to suggest any changes whatsoever over there. So what I will be doing is very carefully, and I began the process, very carefully listening to what people have got to say, asking lots of questions, trying to understand the individuals that work there and the system they're working within, because I in general have got this belief that if there's a problem, I mean, there's a lot of differences in people, certainly, but a lot of the time it has to do with the system that they're working in. They may not have the tools in, there may be something different for them than there is somebody else. In other words, you can a lot of times repair stuff by fixing something in the system instead of just saying, well, it's your fault. It's your fault. If you were different, this wouldn't be a problem. Sometimes that's true. But a lot of times it's, if I gave that person another tool or a better tool, then they might be able to do that job better. And guess how I'm going to learn that? I am going to learn that by listening to what they've got to say and everybody else has got to say. That's one of the jobs of a manager, is you're going to listen to a lot of different perspectives. And it's your job to figure out, okay, what should we do next at the end of that? I'm not there with the circuit clerk's office, not even close. I've already began the process, but I've got a long ways to go. And but I'm exhilarated by it. It's one of those things where, like the order of protection, if there's a problem, then let's find some common ground and get this thing worked out the best we possibly can and as quickly as we possibly can. And it may be fixed by the time January 1 comes around. We'll see. Maybe not. Okay. With that, I would take any questions you've got, and don't hesitate to ask it, because even if I don't know the answer, I will write it down so that I know to look into it in the future. I guess I didn't really give you an overview of what the circuit clerk's office does. Let me do that.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be described, the circuit clerk's office, as a front door to the legal system, if you will, or a communications hub to the legal system. So that, for example, if I want a name change, I come to the circuit clerk's office and they would show me what forms I need to fill out. And I could do that, help me if I need to. They cannot give legal advice, but they can help you fill the form out correctly. So that's the front door. Once they fill that out, then that is transferred into basically to the judges and over to the legal side of the system. They do whatever they need to do, whatever communications they have. Typically, a lot of them come back through the circuit clerk's office. And then they might go to law enforcement. I mean, we're going to be cooperating not just with the judges, commissioners, and their staffs, but also law enforcement. That we're going to be cooperating with the prosecuting attorney, with attorneys that are filing cases. We're going to be cooperating actually with help agencies because a lot of the people that are in the legal system need some type of help. So the Family Justice Center is a really good example of that within Greene County. And there's a lot of help agencies that are not involved with the Justice Center that could also be contacted and maybe tying people together that need it as well. So that's a general description. You've got electronic documentation mainly now, and virtually everybody, most folks are utilizing that electronic information. There are still a few that are relying to some degree on paper files, which is much less efficient than utilizing electronic. But it does take some learning. I mean, you got to get used to using those electronic files versus paper. So maybe in the future we might be continuing on, this is what I should say, to move toward those electronic files. All right, that's an overview. So question.
I had a question because we've seen you around our campus a lot over the last several months. I'd like you to kind of describe what you've been doing on campus, what meetings or events you've been involved in, and how that helped you in the framework getting ready for your new position.
Okay. Well, this is one that's been very valuable to me. I've got to hear a little bit in the huddles about things going on all over the county. So very valuable to me, and I appreciate that, being included in that. The monthly county officer meetings I've been attending and quietly listening to how they conduct their business. That's been beneficial to me as well. I've been fortunate enough and blessed to be included in the Greene County Leadership Academy. And we're about 4 sessions in. The 5th will be this week. Right now, and some other folks in this room are in that as well with me. So I'm getting to know them better, and I'm certainly learning much more about the county as a whole in that process. And I got a tour of the jail out there, the new jail. And it wasn't in the Leadership Academy, but Bill here a couple of weeks gave me a tour of the detention center down here for juvenile, the new one. And that was interesting. So those have been going on. I've also had the opportunity to talk with most of the county officers at this point, actually spend a little time with them. Brent and Sam actually both gave me a tour of the assessor's area down there and gave me some insight into what they do. I appreciate that. And that's happened just, I've sat down with Justin and he told me about the treasurer's office and I don't see Cindy. I definitely sat down with her and she was showing me through some of what they use to keep track in the accounting system all of you use to keep track of your budgets. So I've done that with several of the county, most of them at this point. I'd like to get all of them if I could and do that. And then I've talked with actually a lot of you briefly about things. Bill, I've been his ear, I've been Kylie's ear, definitely at this point. And by the way, there's going to be more of that in the future, if you don't mind. I appreciate what you've already.
Still got some angle on the air.
And here's one thing I'd say about what I've seen so far. I'm very impressed by the people that I've met here in the county. Very impressed. I mean, you guys care about what you're doing and you care about the people that not only you work with, but you're involved with on a day-to-day basis, your customers, the people that you work with. So I'm very impressed by that, very pleased by that, very excited to be joining you in that process as I work over at the circuit clerk's office. Can I answer that question?
It does, and I hope you have gotten that feeling, although you're in a different building and you're technically a state employee, as most of your employees are, but we are still a Greene County family, so it's nice that you've kind of picked up on that, that regardless of what building you are in or who writes your paycheck, it's still a Greene County family.
And I can feel that over there talking with Renee. I mean, one of the things she brought up was the Leadership Academy and the Great Game of Government. She mentioned that and said that was, she thought, valuable for her. And they showed me some benchmarks actually that they were using over there to help them measure their performance and one thing and another. So I know everybody's busy. Man, you're so busy, so many things to do. And you think, well, do I really have time to do this great game of business? And I think what you're doing is worthwhile. The principles in there are frankly universal. It's not just Jack Stack. They'll work anywhere for anybody. And there isn't one way to roll it out. It's going to look a little different depending on your area. I know Sam and Brent showed me some of the measures they use down there to measure how you're doing in an assessor's office too. So I think it's a good thing, and it should work over there as well. But it is a challenge when you've got those two different systems working together and two sets of rules, actually, the employees and whatnot. Other questions that I could try to answer? Okay. Well, thank you, Cindy, and it's back to you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate you all attending today. It was good to hear from you, Bryan, and we look to hear from you more as you take your office in January and really get your feet wet. I can't stress enough what it means to the Greene County family that you've been on site and you've been very engaged. That's been so meaningful, and you're going to make a great circuit clerk. Thank you very much. We will go ahead and adjourn. That maybe briefing can start on time. We'll get you guys out a few minutes early, and we will see you next week. Thank you.